You really need to challenge your OCD. Like, you need to become so fucking clever. You need to outwit it as much as possible. And I know that there are so many logical solutions that those with OCD would have come up with, would have thought about, but maybe just that next thing, maybe it was too far rational and you're fighting against this so irrational idea. Maybe that's why it has its power, right? It's so irrational with this super creative virtual reality fucking vision that's going on that is just hitting you with this emotion. What is going on, my OCD travelers? I have another quick tip that has really helped me. I guess the funny thing of OCD, you need just an enormous tool belt. I think that's something to be said about mental health in general, even just being a human. But when it comes to OCD, yeah, having that tool belt handy and really having a plethora of tools to choose from could be the difference between getting through the day or being curled up in a ball, feeling like you're stuck, paralyzed, in a loop with just this death grip that is OCD. And that is being able to identify what is rational. Now that is a fucking trick question, because imagine if you were able just to say, so a thought came up. I mean, if you're familiar with OCD, you know the whole loop, right? Obsessive thought, depending on if you've got puro or not, maybe it'll stay as thoughts, but for everyone else and all the other subtypes, compulsion to leave the emotion or the feeling, or make the thought go away because you don't want that whatever outcome to happen. If only it was as easy as just telling that thought. And I like to speak about OCD as an entity. It gives you that, let's call it a suggestion, because really that is mostly what thoughts and emotions are, just suggestions. That's another tip that's really helped me, because the blurriness of when irrational becomes rational is really what makes the fear of uncertainty feel certain. And that is the nature also of OCD. It just makes everything feel so real that then you enforce, unfortunately, by giving that drug addict its hit, because it'll just tell you one more. It's never one more. Just 2 seconds. It's never 2 seconds. Just a little bit of effort. Never is. If only it was as easy as telling your OCD, that's irrational, let's move on. Doesn't work like that. So we really need to spread this out. We need to be able to create a framework that enables us to move forward, or move forward easier in the moment. It is never, ever, ever going to be a yes or no. Can we move forward? Yes or no. Is this irrational? Yes or no. Never is. There is, in many ways, a rational to irrational spectrum. How long is a piece of string? Who knows? When does black turn to white? Who knows? But if we are able to place something in place that is going to serve us better in the moment, we may just be able to move forward and pass that moment where we can get stuck in the loop. All right, as soon as you start looping, that's where OCD gets bigger, badder, stronger, and it just wants to take over. Our aim is to just move forward, just past that loop. Kind of like passing, imagine you're a ship in the ocean, you see a whirlpool. Your aim is just to pass the whirlpool. As soon as you get on the inside, it'll suck you down unless you put all of your horsepower to get out of that bloody thing before it drags you all the way to the middle. Good, mate, yourself?
What are you doing?
Filming for YouTube. I just started a new channel. I've had like another business in the past, but this is all some new stuff around mental health. Thought a good scenery would be the trees. Cheers, man. Thanks. Between the spectrum of irrational to irrational, let's say I need to give you a real life scenario right now. So an irrational thought, right? This is going to be like, bonkers to anyone that hasn't heard of OCD before. But I guess you probably have OCD if you're here, especially watching these long videos. I like to go into detail. So an irrational thought, let's just say my OCD tells me that if I don't step over this leaf, this certain way, within this time frame, it gets real fucking creative. Your sister's going to be in a car accident, and like a vivid movie, virtual reality type in a second. So of course, like, how dare I not step over this leaf? But then that's like giving that drug addict its quick hit. Okay, so that is like completely bonkers irrational. All right, and it's super simple, but I need to acknowledge that that is irrational. Sometimes this is where it gets tricky, and I guess OCD can change the rules on you. When you start calming your nervous system through other practices and tactics and strategies, such as looking after your health and wellness like a maniac. That's the point I've come to, so that, I am taming my nervous system so much, because that is when your OCD has less grip, right? It has less power. The calmer your nervous system, the weaker it is. The more erratic your nervous system, the more erratic you are, the more power it has. That's when you're down, that's when you're weak, and that's when it'll sink its claws. Sometimes, if you're really on top of it and you're taking care of yourself, it knows that when it goes so far irrational, that's when it might have more emotional pull. The more irrational it is, but the more centered and grounded you are, you're able to quickly notice that is crazy, right? So you're able to move through it a little bit easier, all right? So that you're kind of going toward the right direction, stepping toward the right direction. But when it gets really tricky is when does black turn to white, or vice versa, all right? So it starts creating these other patterns. It tells you if you don't do this certain thing, then something else is going to happen, or it's the line starts getting closer to rational, so you have more belief in it. And even if it doesn't have as much emotional pull, right, the intensity is compensated by the rationale. So it almost has the equal pull, even if it isn't irrational and has massive emotion behind it. So that's where sometimes it gets even trickier. So what we need to do in its place, that in many ways is a good thing. It is much better to be in a more rational place where the OCD is, even if it is irrational compulsions and solutions, what you can do instead, and what has helped me so much. All right, this is a part of the framework that I've used, that I created such a long time ago, and I can't believe, it still baffles me, still surprises me that it still works for me today. I use it every single day. It's what I check into every single day. Anytime my OCD gets worse or better, that's what I check in with. So what we're aiming to do is actually replace, right? We're trying to be a step ahead of the OCD, and this is in fact where I have found my OCD starting to make sense, but starting to actually be an advantage. All right, so OCD is honestly like a drug addict. I think it's the perfect description. It wants its hit now. All right, so usually the best thing it can ask for is the compulsion now, and you can always do things with your physical body now because you're in the present, right? Whether it's counting, tapping, doing some weird shit right in front of you. So what we're trying to do is take whatever the fear is, whatever spin that your OCD has on the thing that you're fearing about. If we are able to just ask the thought, sit in that uncomfortable feeling just long enough so you can ask, why am I feeling this? It could be because I don't want this thing to happen. And then you can ask, what is actually something else that is a lot more rational that I can do right now? What can I do that is rational to solve this, what could be a complete irrational problem? I understand it may be a possible outcome or scenario, otherwise it wouldn't have that much pull on you, right? Maybe even, it could be something batshit crazy that could maybe only happen in an alternate universe. But for those with OCD, it feels so real. As irrational as the problem is, we really want to get a step ahead by thinking about the next best rational thing to offer the OCD as something to chew on, right? And eventually we'll work our way to more and more rational solutions. Now, this is where it gets a little uncomfortable, because what you're asking from the OCD is to delay gratification, right? That is difficult for just humans in general, let alone a drug addict that is your sidekick, which is still your OCD. All right, so the OCD wants that instant gratification and wants that hit now, all right? And you're asking it to delay it. So just keep that in mind, because that might mean you could do something else that could actually lead to something positive to not make that thing happen in the future. All right, I mean, even if it is a little bit irrational, it is a bit obsessive, sometimes you have to fight fire with fire, right? But is it helping you to some degree? Because there gets a point where, let's take an example. If you ever wanted to go watch Turtles All the Way Down, one of the co-producers, John Green, he wrote a book, amazing movie. Haven't read the book, might actually get to that. I think it might be a little different, but yeah, really good portrayal of OCD, at the very least, contamination OCD. So this girl obviously thinks about things on a very deep level, but especially cellular biology, bacteria, and getting infected. All right, so that's her OCD. She just thinks and obsesses about it all day, every day. It's pretty sad to watch. Definitely hit home for me, even though I've got a different form of contamination OCD. Man, there was a point where I was like, I hate to even describe it like this, but you get sad, you cry, then there's like this, like really like, you almost feel like you're hyperventilating, you're crying, but then there's like a heaving crying. Fuck man, that got me so good. Like I was like heaving crying, just because it hit home for me so fucking much. Especially with, I don't want to ruin the movie, actually I won't spoil it. A solution in that case, right? This is not going to work. I'm not a therapist, counselor, psychologist. Like I'm just thinking about what I would do, because you get desperate with OCD, right? And it just, anything that helps in that moment could just change the day, could save the day. And once you get one day under your belt, you might get the next. Something that I would do if I was in that scenario, because I've almost got like mental contamination type OCD. I won't go into too much detail about it. Something that I would do in that case is like the next best thing, the next best rational solution. So imagine like she starts obsessing about her hands being contaminated, like infections getting through her hands, because you obviously use your hands to touch so much stuff. Bacteria is real. People get infected. People die because of bacteria that take over. But if you think about it and try to push your mind into the more rational solutions, hand washing constantly, if you were to think about it, this is where you really need to challenge your OCD. Like you need to become so fucking clever. You need to outwit it as much as possible. And I know that there are so many logical solutions that those with OCD would have come up with, would have thought about, but maybe just that next thing, maybe it was too far rational and you're fighting against this so irrational idea that maybe that's why it has its power, right? It's so irrational with this super creative virtual reality fucking vision that's going on, that is just hitting you with this emotion that can't even compare to something so insignificantly small yet super rational. I do want to acknowledge that. You need to keep trying and try to just get a step ahead. It's not about going all the way to rational, because again, you just need to meet OCD where it's at. This is how to help anyone. I've been in the coaching space for such a long time, and this is like one of the biggest keys that I wish I knew sooner, is just being able to meet someone where they're at first and foremost. Right? To connect with anyone, you need to meet them where they're at. You need to understand them before taking them through, the best exercise and the training routine for you. It's not for you. That's like the dream outcome, and that's not where they are. All right? And you almost need to approach OCD in that same way, depending on how irrational it is. For instance, this girl in the movie keeps washing her hands over and over and over and over again, and I get that sometimes too. Like I need to wash my hands. The next best thing you could do is, what could I do right now that would actually prevent, let's say, the bacteria from spreading, that would actually help. All right, so this is where it gets real tricky, because you don't want to fall into a number of different patterns. So something like avoidance, so you just avoid shit altogether, like door handles and stuff, because technically the logical side, all right, you avoid too much, you don't get exposed to any bacteria, you don't give your bacteria a chance to start fighting, because there's bacteria in your body that is fighting all day, every day, and it's bacteria is the reason that you're also not dying and you're not getting affected, right? There's good and bad bacteria. The way that I would look at it, right, it's the way that I've had to look at it, because again, contamination OCD is part of my OCD, is okay, so I've got good and bad, I'm still alive, not dead yet. How do I give myself a better chance at continuing to survive? I clearly need to help out the good guys. How do I help out the good guys? Well, health and wellness to start. All right, the better you look after yourself, the better your body is able to maintain itself and move forward and actually get better, bigger, stronger, more resilient. All right, there are so many ironies in the world. Like it gets cold, so then people go indoors, chuck the heater on, and then they become less adapted to the cold. And when they go out into the cold for like small snippets of time, their body's not ready for it. They just get hammered, and their body, like, that's actually doing the opposite. Everything's about balance. You can't have too much comfort, because then you'll get weak. And the same goes for the bacteria. So I'd literally offer it the next best thing. So instead of washing my hands, as painful as it can be sometimes not to wash my hands, sometimes the rationale takes over. I'll wash my hands, but then even if I have to do something next, what do I do next? I don't know, hydrate. Maybe I haven't hydrated. Maybe my good guys are a little bit dehydrated and they're losing the battle. All right, so that can become a loop in itself. So then you don't want to like just over drink. You can literally kill yourself from water, so don't do that. The next best thing, you can kind of see where I'm going with this, all right? So you need to check in. Your OCD goes for loops. That is the nature of OCD, looping. Okay, so when you become fixated on something else to do, that is where it can change the rules, and that's like the next obsessive thing. So you need to be careful about this. Again, you don't want to go through certain things that could make things worse. For example, like avoidance. There are certain things that you could be doing that are reassuring. So you want to make sure whatever it is that you're doing, you would be doing it with the most logical, most rational head on your shoulders. All right, and this really comes down to identifying, and this is sometimes where you need support. OCD has twisted your mind so much you lose perspective, you sometimes lose grip on reality, and the line between rational and irrational becomes so blurred, like it convinces you. It's a master marketer and salesperson. Yeah, we should really learn a thing or two from OCD for marketing and sales. So this is really where support and even like a therapist can help, because if you go to them and be like, look, instead of washing my hands, it actually made me feel all right. I didn't drink water for a while, so it's almost as if I told my OCD, hey, we're not going to wash the hands. We've already washed the hands. If we wash the hands again, that's going to make them dehydrated. If we use alcohol, it's going to make them even more dehydrated. It'll crack the skin. That'll actually expose us to even more risks, because dehydrated skin means like the skin is weak. The skin is like literally the first barrier, the first line of defense, you know, before we get to our blood. All right, so we need to keep that nice and moist, nice and strong, nice and resilient. Fuck you washing your hands. I'm gonna give that a pause right now. What else can I do? I'm gonna go drink a glass of water. Haven't drank in a little bit. Haven't actually had a meal in a while. I'm gonna go have some, you know, solid protein, grass-fed, grass-finished beef. All right, because protein in that is going to strengthen my hands from any bacteria getting through my skin. All right, things like that. Again, it could be obsessive, but if you had to choose between the two, which one do you think you're going to choose? Like, what would be the more rational, not completely rational, but the more rational? Even if it's just a little bit, it could still be batshit crazy obsessive, but is it getting you in the direction where you should probably want to go? Probably. Is actually having a beneficial meal that could fuel your body to take care of you, to give the fuel your cells and your bacteria need to fight off infection? Yes, like it literally is. All right, so can you action that? That could literally be the thing you give your OCD. You give your OCD something to chew on, figuratively and I guess literally, piece of beef. So I mean, you go through the framework, because you'll get to the point where like your compulsions might be, some people, like every few seconds. All right, so you can't just keep eating beef or can't just keep drinking water. So you really need to build out your toolbox and know what the next best rational thing is. And this is essentially where the framework that I came up with, which spells out harmony, a beautiful goal for our nervous system that actually primes us to be able to handle exposure of our OCD. Because the way I see it, the final boss is just exposing yourself to your triggers and not reacting, actually preventing your compulsions, which is ultimately ERP. That in my opinion is the final boss, but I think too many people are trying to approach it or just throw it off altogether because they're like, I get it, but that. So I don't think people have approached it with this lens on of the harmony framework, which is all the basics of human. It's so basic that I just hope you don't be like, tried all that. Have you though? All right? Have you allowed OCD to guide you to, again, it might sound like perfection is obsessive, but again, if you had to choose between obsessive irrational to obsessive a little bit more rational, I think the choice is obvious. So yeah, harmony framework, hydration, awareness, where is your attention, like what are you focusing on? That's just a massive one altogether, but otherwise everything else is pretty straightforward. Rest, whether it's, you know, sleep or actually just pausing throughout the day, making sure you're not just hammering yourself, because again, any of these, if you looked at it from a survival perspective, is your body at peak performance right now? Are we able to run away if anything was to become a threat in our immediate environment? All right, so that's what the harmony framework is all about. It is optimizing so much so that your body is ready to run away, because it is literally on the limiter all day, every day. Those with OCD, they most likely have a crazy, overloaded, hyperactive, hypersensitive nervous system. So we're trying to get it to a place where the body is just ready. The rest of it is, so we're up to rest, M for movement, just making sure that you train but don't overtrain. I've done that before and that's just been the opposite effect. O for oxygen, or just breathing. Breathing is honestly such a blessing. It is like the direct access, opportunity and path to the nervous system. If you're able to control that, you're really able to tap in at the very least to your nervous system and just gain some control, and just that little bit of leverage might be the difference again between making it through the day or not, or feeling like it. And for nutrition, pretty obvious one, look after what your body needs, macronutrients and micronutrients, because that could literally be what fuels your cells and bacteria to literally fight off infection and invaders. But just helps you think clearer, energy, all that. And then why? Your environment. I won't go into too much detail about that one, but just think about pollutants. All right, pollutants that are literally trying to get in. Again, this might be triggering for those with contamination OCD, but another pollutant that a lot of people I think really overlook, especially when it comes to OCD, is EMFs. This has been honestly one of the biggest game changers for me when it comes to OCD, to the point I'm literally living out of a caravan right now. Some might consider this avoidance, but if it came to me being in normal civilization around high EMF intensity, it means the difference between me shutting down and not even being able to function, because just that's what it does to me. Like, my OCD gets so bad, like I can't even work on it. I'm not even edging my way up and out of the hole. It is just crushing me. All right, so there is a difference. Like, when you're working on your OCD, you can't be in overwhelm, you can't be in shutdown. You at the very least need to be climbing the bridge, even if it is on the slightest gradient. That is better than down. So I mean, many people might think that is extreme, but again, it means I can actually have some clarity, some of my life back. Some people might think crammed living space, but honestly, it has opened my life up so much. I feel like I have gotten so much back. I'm loving it. It's so good. So EMF, big topic, cover it in a lot more detail in OCD Unlocked. There you'll find the course that I've created, essentially my journey, what's helped me. Will it help you? Not sure, hope it does, but it sure as heck has helped me get to where I am today. And it seems to be evergreen. Like, I still use it each and every day. Am I perfect? No. Is my OCD still here? Yes, but man, it's so much better than it used to be. So inside there you'll also find supportive community as well. Still brand new, so yeah, I guess to all the founding members, well, at the time of recording this video, welcome. Thanks for watching this far. If you're still here, battery ran flat because I was talking for such a long time. Love you guys. See you in the next video.